Hello! Welcome back to the SAP's podcast. This is episode 4 of our Leftovers Watch series. And so this is season 1, episode 4, BJ and the AC. Our spoiler warning, as we say for all episodes, is that we'll only be spoiling the current episode that we're watching and any episodes previously recorded. So you don't have to worry about the whole series being spoiled unless, dear listeners, don't share this podcast with at least 5 friends, then I'll spoil the whole series in the next episode. So you have been warned. So of course I'm Sam. I'm joined by my brilliantly quintessential co-hosts, as always. First of all, Phil.
Hello, looking forward to it.
As always, and Ant.
Hi both.
Hello, yeah, welcome.
Short and sweet, yeah.
Yeah,
Casual.
exactly. Well, that's it. Let's not dick around anymore. Let's get straight into the episode. So we open this episode with a scene of a kind of doll production warehouse, and one of these dolls is going to be used as Jesus in a nativity scene. And what we get is we see the nativity scene in Mapleton, and then we see a few time jumps. We see things like a few Guilty Remnant members hanging around, probably stalking people as always. We see a dog around it, so some of the cornerstones of the earlier episodes. Then we get the reveal that baby Jesus is in fact missing. Phil, what were your early instinctual reactions?
Right, so first off, I found the kind of actual building of the dolls and the factory scene creepy as anything. Like that is... I assume it's just to show how unspecial this doll is by, showing all the other ones that are being produced and how they're made. But in a dirty, unpleasant environment, it was pretty creepy.
I think, sorry, just before you carry on, I think because, as we'll see later, where Kevin gets not obsessed with it, but all right, maybe a little bit obsessed with with finding the baby Jesus doll, just because I can't think of a better word. I think you're right. They are just showing at the start, yeah, this is any old doll. You could just go buy another one, but kind of at the encouragement of other people, Kevin's like, no, I'll find this one fucking doll.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd also like to come in hot and strong with early on in this episode. I noticed there are 2 lambs at the foot of the baby Jesus. And I can only assume these 2 lambs represent 2% departed.
As we know from Ant's rule of 2, you see 2 of anything, it means it's the 2% departed.
You know what? It's a hot take, Phil. So I'm not going to ridicule you for that. I think I'm going to come in equally hot on my points here. First of all, I'd just like to make note of the name of the dolls. So there were the Afforder dolls, which obviously is a play on words for them being affordable. And what struck me was that maybe in the departure that lots of people would have lost either young ones or family members, and having these kind of affordable baby dolls mass produced, maybe some sort of comfort, could provide some sort of comfort for people. And then also I just wanted to point out the dogs just seen in the opening snapshot when it changes through the seasons, and obviously there's the theme of dogs through the show, so I thought I'd just point that out.
Well, I had already mentioned the dogs, but feel free to to mention them again, fam, if it makes you feel better. So next we see Patty, obviously the Good Riddance cult leader, or at least the Mapleton leader. She's in Kevin's office, and he asks her to please stop the Guilty Remnant turning up to an event at a school the next day, and to give people a break and just let them enjoy it with their families. But Patty's response, obviously written, is just, quote, "There is no family." And then she just leaves a picture of Laurie on Kevin's desk as well. So, Ant, what did you kind of make of all this?
I mean, Patty's obviously been provocative, and Kevin's just had enough and willing to arrest them. The Guilty Remnant, as seen when Patty leaves as well. It's interesting to think about what the actual end point is. What's the goal of the GR? Are they just there to antagonise and recruit? Even if everyone would be recruited into the GR, what's the plan there? Is it money? Probably not. I don't know. What do you think, Phil?
I think they're probably quite a what's the word I'm looking? Organised cult, considering how much money they appear to be able to pull between them. Some of the plans they're able to pull off, as we see later on in the episode, and the fact that we know that these guys aren't the only what's the word I'm looking for? Cell in this cult, because I think during the news in the first episode you see that they're all across the country. So I think they're quite a complicated. I'm not certain what the end goal is, other than I think they're a religious cult. But I think they're quite clearly well organised.
Well, we saw last week as well that when they were making an offer on the church, it wasn't just making an offer in the name of the guilty remnant, whatever. It was like, with a holding company and everything. So they're definitely savvy. But,
absolutely.
So what? Putting you on the spot a little bit, because I can't say anything in the doc about it. But so, what did you guys actually think of the phrase "there is no family"? Why would they be saying that? Have you got any kind of thoughts on that at all? Either of you, feel free to jump in.
I think they're trying to. I think from their perspective that the old life's gone. Their old life's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And all those everything that made you is gone. Hence why everyone wears white. Why everyone smokes. No one talks. And you're not allowed to really see your old family. You're not allowed to associate with them in any way. Or almost really acknowledge them. So I'm getting the impression when they say there is no family, it's because there isn't. From the way I see it, I think they don't really see themselves as people anymore. Hence why they white things out. Cover shops in white paint, dress in white. You don't even know people's surnames a lot of the time. You only know their first name as well. You only know Patty or Gladys. In fact, I don't even think we know what Meg's surname is at this point.
No, I think you're definitely right, and I think the idea that it would kind of be like what you thought was important, pre-departure, isn't important, and family is obviously one of the most important things in most people's lives. So I think that's probably about right. Ant, have you got anything to offer? Or
nothing really to add. Just obviously
right,
that the GR are just trying to be provocative, aren't they? And that's a big thing to target. A lot of people think they're close to their families, and just to really attack that kind of structure is a hot topic for them.
Yeah, that's definitely right. So Dennis won the police.
Before we move on, in the scene was Kevin trying to provoke Patty? I know the conversation seems to go the other way with her saying, there is no family anymore, and she would be well aware of the fact that his wife is now his ex-wife, or whatever you want to call it, separated wife, is now part of the cult. But at the end of the conversation, when he's talking to I'm going to call him his deputy, he was there like, yeah, the plan worked. He's like, oh, did it work? He goes, yeah, it works. They'll be there. We'll be able to get them. Was he provoking them?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I thought it was more that the GR made their mind up.
Yeah, and maybe there was a little bit of maybe there was a little bit of sarcasm as well, because maybe he didn't really believe it would work. I didn't take away from it that he was trying to get them there so we could get them, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But listeners, let us know what you think. Am I right? Is Phil right? I'm definitely right, but anyway.
I would just like it noted, dear listeners, that Sam has yet to apologise from an earlier episode where he challenged me on what a poster said and whether they're a religious cult. We smoke not to... what was the exact word, Sam? I'd just like to hear it from yourself. We smoke to... Why do they smoke?
Say my name.
So anyway, we see Dennis. we see Dennis talking. We see Dennis talking to Kevin. Dennis, obviously being one of the police officers in the. We'll just edit all that out. No, sorry.
You were wrong?
I'm never wrong. Everyone knows that. No, so Dennis, we then see talking to Kevin, and he mentions that the baby Jesus has been stolen. And Kevin initially says, like, am I supposed to give a shit? Well, yep, Kevin, you will be soon. And Kevin then tries Tom's phone number, which he tries to ring, and then it's just not in service at all. And initial kind of reactions to this?
The only thing I could really think about why they're focusing on Jesus gone missing is that maybe there's a parallel between Jesus being stolen from the crib, the toy Jesus, to Christianity and religion largely leaving American culture. I mean, perhaps that's something you could infer, or just that, people like to focus on little details in times of comfort, but haven't really got anything more apart from that.
Phil?
I guess there's obviously kind of like a bit of a link of baby Jesus goes missing or disappears to everyone else. 2% of the population disappearing. So I'm surprised it's because they say that, don't they? They don't really say, oh, he was stolen. It's just that he's disappeared or he's gone. So I'd wondered if they'd changed the language around that. But yeah, possibly. Maybe that's what they're trying to show is that Christianity is leaving American society. I mean, you don't see many people attending churches in this series.
Sorry, Phil, on what you were saying as well, I think someone says to Kevin, is it the mayor or somebody says later in the episode, I think I've noted it down, but that they say the baby's vanished. And
Yeah.
Kevin's like, no, it hasn't vanished. Like, it's been stolen. Like, stop trying to make out this is another departure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's interesting other people are really fussed by it. Because in reality, if the baby went... let's say they did a nativity scene here, where we live, and the baby got stolen, I'd be surprised if anyone even reported it, let alone actively tried to pursue it. So I think I'm surprised it's such a big thing there. The other thing I was surprised with, he's surprised when Tom's phone is no longer in service, but we know it's been 6 weeks since the previous episodes occurred. It's like, has he not tried to contact him during that period of time?
Yeah, no, that is true, to be fair. Maybe he just thinks, I don't want to bother him too much, but 6 weeks does seem like quite a long time, given that he's called him multiple times in previous episodes.
Yeah.
So, no, I see your point, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, we'll cut to him for the first time in the episode, and he's with Christine, and they're discussing about how Holy Wayne hasn't called them in 6 weeks. They're in some kind of, I'm guessing it's some kind of hostel or something like that, and then a bit of a crazy guy with his knob out comes out, starts talking in Spanish and English, and then just starts attempting to strangle Christine. This really went from 0 to 60 very quick, and she gets thrown to the ground. And the crazy guy keeps saying to her, I know what's inside you. I know what's inside you. And Phil, as I think you've mentioned in previous episodes, yep, she's pregnant.
Thank you. Called it.
Yep, just justification for Phil.
Vindication.
He'll get vindication. Yep, fair enough. He'll get none from me about points that I've said, but I'll back him up on things that he's said. Ant, do you have any thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, so they're based in Amarillo, Texas, for this scene, and normally the main series, the main action is in Utah, isn't it? So obviously they've been on the travels, but let's just call him the crazy guy, CG. He's talking about all in white as well, so I wonder if the guilty remnant had spread to Texas that far, or if it's some other reference. Also, maybe just the fact that Holy Wayne gets his energy from sleeping with Asian girls, and the fact that this individual has singled Christine out. I just wondered if there's a parallel to make between him and being a sort of demonic figure. Who knows about Holy Wayne's intentions, and whether he knows about the whole situation, or it could just be read that he is just mentally disturbed. But I think there was definitely a parallel to make. You could even say he's a demonic figure of sorts if you really wanted to go into it.
Yeah, as ever with this program, something that's not answered, but and so is definitely up to interpretation. But it allows you to make those kinds of inferences, and they are sensible inferences. But you're just not sure. That's just the beauty of this program. So we then see Kevin and Jill talking about Tom, and interesting to note, because it hasn't been referenced in previous episodes, that Kevin describes Tom as your brother, and he doesn't say, quote, my son. And we'll see later on in the episode that, yep, in fact, Tom is another man's son, but Kevin was happy to step up and take care of him. A good quality for Kevin, definitely, because he is a complicated character. So Amy then mentions to Kevin about how the baby Jesus went missing, and this is when he says that no, it was stolen and not vanished. But Jill then says that he can't just buy a new one, and he's going to have to go find the old one. So it's the first kind of time when we see somebody kind of making the inference to Kevin that this is something to be bothered about. And I just got the impression that she was kind of doing it just to wind him up a little bit. That, you know, Jill isn't going to be that bothered about it really. And then, as we'll see later in the episode, that she was the one to actually have taken the baby. She's just really trying to get under Kevin's skin. And I think for most people, sorry, I know I'm going on a bit here, but I'll just finish this point. I think for most people that would just be something small, you know, and it wouldn't really matter. But the way that Kevin seems to get kind of obsessed with things, it takes over his life for a few days. Phil, what did you think about this?
So her exact words, she goes, "That's cheating, isn't it?" And I think that for me, I took that as she sees this as a game, almost kind of playing with him.
Yeah.
Because you're right, up until that point. In reality, even if she did take the baby, I'm surprised she'd goad him on. You know, oh, well, I stole it, so why is she goading him on? That's cheating. It's a game. The other thing I found quite odd I don't think there's so much of an issue with him going, oh, have you spoken to your brother? Because I don't find that odd for him to use to refer to their relationship. It's a good clue to whether Tom's his child or not. But what I don't get is he goes, he's still in Sacramento, I think he says, or San Diego. I can't remember which one, but somewhere in California. Mm-hmm. And she goes, yeah, that's the last place. That's the last I heard from her. So, she's not really been talking to him. And it must have been quite a long time because he doesn't appear to have been in Utah. He's only been in Utah and Texas for what appears to be quite a long time. So does she not have a relationship or communication with him at all, even prior to the phone being broken?
Yeah, and also it makes you question if he's telling the truth when he is speaking to her as well.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine he's telling her about Holy Wayne and all this other kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So we then see Kevin and Dennis discussing about the event on sorry, I'll start that again. Then see Kevin and Dennis discussing about how if the guilty remnant even step foot on school property at the event the next day, then they're going to arrest them. And the mayor then mentions to Kevin as well about how the baby Jesus was stolen, but she says, no, just go buy another one. And I just want to make a point that Kevin, Justin through rocking those sunglasses again. He's just a sexy son of a bitch, man. I swear. Honestly.
Yeah, should definitely have done a collab with Ray-Ban for sure. Missed opportunity there.
What are you saying, Phil?
Well, I'm saying it's the middle of winter. Why do you need Ray-Bans? Like, no one else is wearing them.
That low winter sun, yeah.
But if you look that good in them, you'd be wearing it even if it was night time.
You'd be wearing it indoors. Whenever I see him wearing it, I always think of, have you ever seen CSI Miami?
No.
And like the main detective in that is like whenever he goes to say a cool line or something, he turns around, growls his line, and then puts the sunglasses on. And I always think of that whenever I see it. Honestly, look at CSI Miami, type in CSI Miami sunglasses. You'll see what I mean.
Any thoughts about this actual episode?
In the actual episode, I think it's interesting that the mayor says, because you need a win, Kevin. And I think she's quite strongly implying that a lot of the town has lost faith in him. Because what's the last win that he's had? You know, he's been shooting dogs. His father's gone to some kind of mental health institution. So he shot dogs. He's, had been fighting with members of the GR. I don't think he's been doing. I've yet to see a scene where he appears to be doing a good job of actually being the head of police, and I suspect the town would also be losing confidence in him.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. So we then see Kevin in a shop to buy the new baby doll, but for some reason he decides, no, I'm not going to do it, and he puts it back and he decides that he's gonna find the stolen one. What was your reaction, Phil?
As I've kind of said, like I don't understand. Well, no, I do understand because he's clearly quite possessive over things. Why? He's clearly. He says he's been too busy. Yeah, I've seen him to do any police work, as I've already stated. But I'd like trying to understand quite what's triggered him to actually decide to try and find this baby doll. Was it just that conversation with the mayor and saying, "Oh, you need a win," and he's there like, you know what, I do need a win. I'd wondered if that was kind of the motivation there, not so much a win in the eyes of the town, but actually for himself.
I saw it more of a. Sorry, Sam. I saw it more of a. He just wants to maybe to take his mind off the situation, perhaps. I don't know. Sam, what do you think?
He seems like quite a prideful guy as well. So if someone's saying you need a win, he'll be like, yeah, all right. I'll go out and win one.
Yeah, possibly.
But, yeah, potentially. So the next scene, Kevin's driving along in his car and he just completely loses control of it, and it seems like the car just completely dies on him. I wasn't really sure about this. I couldn't really see, an instant kind of connection to other things.
The only thing that I was thinking of is, so the car suddenly dies, just cuts out completely on him. And you see him for a moment, when you see him lose control momentarily, I was almost thinking back to the car crash in the first episode, where you hear a car crash in the background, it turns out it's Matt's wife. But then I wonder if this kind of helped almost be a bit of a break for him, because he goes from driving around in a police car to suddenly going around in the dog killer's car.
Yeah.
And it's like a filthy, like if you see the car later on, you'll see it's actually quite a little bit knocked up and dirty.
Yeah.
So I think it's been seeing other use. It'd be interesting to know what it's been used for in that time. And also it becomes quite agitated and aggressive when he's in that car. When you see with the twins, your favourite characters, shortly.
Surely there's a link as well between him losing control of the car and maybe losing control of his life. Perhaps. A bit of improvisation for you both.
There potentially is a link, but don't call me Shirley.
Only on Saturday, Sam.
So Tom's then with Christine in hospital after her attack, and then we see another weird guy who's walking around with a circular mark on his head, and he says that he's doing it so, quote, the creator can find him. And then Tom then goes on to be very charming and basically victim blame Christine about the attack because she was just talking to him. So of course that means he's going to come up and strangle her. Come on, Tom. What are you saying about this, Sam?
So just a point on the cult. It's interesting how many divisions, factions of movements have opened up across the country, and I just wondered if there was any connection between this one and the GR, or if they're totally separate. I presume they want different things.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's two things there. I think with the other cult that you've mentioned, I think it's interesting. They also seem to see it as so the creator can find me. So it's interesting that they seem to think there's a potential this could happen again, or that they think they were missed out the first time and they think this is a biblical event.
Yeah.
With the Tom and Christine, you're right. You can see Tom is very clearly very stressed and wrong to blame Christine in this situation. Though it does seem Christine's not taking it very seriously considering, but aside. I think it's interesting. She goes, "Oh, well, I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him I was pregnant," I think she says. Or she at least confirms that I didn't give him that much information. And this then started me thinking, kind of something you mentioned earlier when I read the document, Ant, about it being, I think you said like demonic. I think you described her attacker as.
Yeah.
And this started me down a line of thinking that maybe we'll get onto later on about why she's pregnant or what she's pregnant with from other people's point of view.
Oh, the little tease on Phil's theory.
Oh,
to come back to it. Anything else to say before we move on?
Yes, in summary, I just think Tom was really out of order. He's barely holding it together, and as we see in subsequent scenes, his very poor reaction to a situation actually makes the situation a lot worse, and what should have been quite a simple situation got out of hand very quickly because of it.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So Christine's then getting checked over for her bruises, and maybe what Phil's just said, he's going to link immediately in with this scene. So she's been checked over for the bruises on her stomach, and the doctor who's examining her sees Tom's knuckles, and she's asking Christine questions and doesn't want to hear anything Tom says, and so she's clearly starts to blame Tom, and then he clocks on and basically just wants to leave whilst the doctor's just out of the room. Christine doesn't go with him, but I think that's probably for the best because she's pregnant and injured, and so she's not going to be able to run away anyway. So I'm not really sure what Tom was planning on there, but he does manage to get away as he's being chased.
Yeah, for me it's a really strange scene because Tom is innocent in this situation, so he obviously hasn't been hitting Christine. He did defend her, but when the doctor was talking to him, he did look guilty, didn't he? He could have been a lot calmer when trying to convince the doctor, and even when she leaves the room and confers with her colleague to come in, he could have just explained the situation through, and Christine could have backed him up. I'm not really sure why he did a runner. He just seemed maybe he just wanted to get out of the situation as a whole, but yeah, he's definitely acting irrationally. I don't know if it's lack of sleep, lack of food. I don't know what it is.
What do you reckon, Phil?
No, I completely agree with Ant that he was acting very strange. I think he's clearly very stressed, and I think the pressure of not having heard anything from Holy Wayne and wondering if he's wasting his time might be playing on him. But what should have been a straight kind of relative no, I didn't attack her, someone else did. I was trying to help, and Christine could have quite easily. He didn't even give Christine a chance to try and actually back up his story, if that makes sense. Christine could have gone, no, he's right. I was attacked back at the hostel earlier on today. So yeah, his reaction was very poor to the whole situation.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't disagree with any of that, to be fair. So then in the next scene, we see the fucking twins.
Your favourites.
Fucking brilliant, yep.
There's two of them as well, that's the great bit,
I think it's a
Double
complete red
flavour.
herring. I think they're going to turn out to be really great characters, and Sam's just kind of feeding us these lies,
No, they are the true heroes of the story, definitely. So they get pulled over by Kevin, who is interrogating them on if Jill stole the baby Jesus. They basically deny it, but then we cut to the next scene and we see that Jill did take the baby. What any thoughts, Phil?
The first thing I noticed that, considering I get the impression she hates her dad, but I'm surprised she's wearing an MPD hat, so Mapleton Police Department hat. I find that's quite a strange thing for someone who dislikes their dad to be wearing. I just thought it was... have we ever seen any of these other people other than Amy before, and the twins?
Yeah, I think we've seen the guy who is kind of leading the chants. He's the one that Jill goes into the bedroom with at the party in the first or second episode.
Oh, what, the one was just to choke him?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So in this scene as well, Amy tells Jill to basically put the baby back because it's stressing her dad out. But Jill decides and said, no, that's it. We'll instead burn the baby in a kind of Viking funeral. But then as she's about to shoot the flaming arrow, I guess you call it, she doesn't go through with it, and I'm guessing it's kind of guilt, maybe pulling back a bit because I don't know, thinking about her dad, or maybe because it is a religious thing. I'm not sure. So, anybody got anything they can kind of offer on this anymore?
Yeah, two things on this one. I'm surprised because Amy's the one who tries to convince her not to go through with it, which is rare for Amy. She's usually the one who tries to egg on situations. And also considering that that Amy doesn't seem to respect Kevin, as we see earlier when she's like, they're like, oh, enjoy my sandwich because she's been taking his food. So I'm surprised that she was trying to stop Jill from doing it. I then almost kind of wondered if there's a link between the fact she wanted to light up the baby Jesus, and also the fact of what she purchases for her mother later on. And I'd wondered if there was a bit of a link there between that, kind of starting a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to maybe a bit of show a bit of guilt, remorse.
Yeah, definitely a thematic link. What do you reckon?
Shades of Edmure Tully not being able to shoot the floating object with the flaming arrow.
Yeah, well, Game of Thrones done Edmure dirty in that final episode, man. That was just one step too far for me. Edmure deserves better than that. So we're back with Tom, who's been stalked by Guilty Remnant members as he's sitting outside the hospital. And this is the first kind of real obvious sign that we see that they operate outside of Mapleton. So as we were discussing earlier, this is a bigger operation. They give Tom a flyer that says on the front that everything that matters about you is inside, and he opens it, and of course it's blank. They really know how to improve your self-esteem, honestly. But this just shows how the Guilty Remnant just prey on people, down on their luck, and they're not looking really to help, but they're looking, to me, that they're trying to reinforce people's self-loathing and their bad luck to try and get them to essentially give up on their current life and then move on to something new. And did anything kind of strike you about this scene?
To be honest, I was a bit confused because he was running away from the hospital and I was back at the hospital, so I don't know if there's just been a lot of time and the search has died down, if you like, for him. Because he did make a pretty rapid exit, sliding around all over the place. And I guess just on the leaflet as well, the thing that strikes me with the GR is it's almost like there's no real substance perhaps, it's a lot of words, but they don't really make clear what they want to do or what they're trying to get across. I think they are just like a bit of a chaotic entity. They're just trying to stir the pot, if you like. And maybe that's their goal, just touch a nerve and recruit that way.
Possibly. I think he's still outside. I don't know if the police would have been called based on the fact that he's technically not committed a crime yet. Maybe hospital security may have tried to detain him. But I think he is outside the hospital, and I think that because you see an ambulance flash by shortly before, and I don't think he'd go that far from the hospital anyway because he's still trying to protect Christine. But also, one of the members of the Guilty Remnant has a bandaged head injury. So
Is that the one that got hit by the stone?
No, because it was 2 women at this hospital, and it was 2 men. No, sorry, it was a man and a woman, like in the previous episode, that got hit by the stone. But that would be an entirely different area, wouldn't it? This is
it's definitely someone different. But I think it's just showing that these people are being attacked all over the place.
Sure.
Yeah, it's definitely meant to call back. So Tom, he's basically just talking out loud a little bit, and he says that he wants to go home and he's just about ready to give up. And then the phone rings, and so you're thinking, okay, Holy Wayne's coming back into it. Is that a good thing? I don't know. You decide for yourself. Some people don't really like this whole subplot. But in fact, it's just an automated message and from a helpline for people who have lost someone in the departure. So, I don't know. Ant, is this destiny or just a coincidence?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Especially in the previous episode, there were lots of things that happened, lots of foreshadowing that came to be, such as the traffic light and the pigeons. And when something like this happens, he's clearly asking for a call. And then an automated call comes in. So you would think that on the surface, this kind of scientific view is it just happens to be a coincidence. But in this Leftovers universe, you would certainly make the jump to think that it's some sort of destiny or some sort of outside force that's happening at the moment.
Phil?
I think it's strange because we see early. I think it's interesting how he attributes that much power to Holy Wayne, because he starts laughing at us. Come on, Wayne, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be joking. So he clearly thinks that what appears to be completely random, automated phone call. Actually, how he seems to attribute it at that time to Holy Wayne. So I think it does show that he still has a lot of faith or belief in the power of Holy Wayne. And maybe that he's not just following Christine because he likes Christine, but actually he does think he's got a job to do of some kind.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've seen with Tom, when Holy Wayne tries to hug him and says that it'll take his pain, you kind of get the impression that he doesn't really believe it. And so it would be interesting, if you could talk to the character, probably the most interesting thing you'd have to say is, does he actually believe in Holy Wayne's powers, or is it just something that he just ran off and joined or anything? No, so that's definitely an interesting point. So quite a big scene comes up next. So Kevin arrives home with Laurie and Meg on his doorstep, and Laurie's there to serve him divorce papers whilst Meg reads a letter written by Laurie. We get confirmation in this scene that Tom isn't Kevin's son. And Laurie's letter mentions about how she's been broken and she just can't fix herself, which I think is quite interesting. And we'll talk about Laurie a bit more in detail later. But Kevin then demands that if Laurie wants the divorce, then she's gotta say it to him, not have Meg read it out. And he's saying to her, like, "Fucking say it, Laurie," and you can understand his pain, but obviously it's always best to not try and speak to people like that, especially someone you claim to love. But then of course Jill has just come in and she hears exactly what he's saying, and just shows like what a couple of dysfunctional parents she has. So no wonder things are going off the rails a little bit for her. And then Jill gives Laurie a little Christmas present as well. So Phil, I know you got a few points to say here, so just take it away.
Yeah, so the first one I guess I was going to go on with was when Meg goes, "Oh, we met the other day. It's been 6 weeks. This is a champion ghoster. This is, it's the day 6 weeks ago. Not even a phone call." What I thought was interesting, because she says that he's been a great husband. So does she? So I'm assuming then that she doesn't know that he's had an affair. I think you've been a good husband, possibly a great husband. That's an odd thing to say about someone who's potentially had an affair. Because initially I'd wondered if Laurie, had left because of his potential affair, but I don't think but maybe she doesn't know. And that might make it a bit harder for Kevin to understand why she's left if that wasn't the reason that she went. Do we have any indication how long Laurie's been gone for? Because
I don't think so.
Because I wasn't sure if it's something immediately to do with what happened at The Departed, because Jill leaves a present out for her, and that's quite strange if she's almost expecting her to come, or if this could have been potentially the first Christmas without her. So I thought the fact she had got her a present was quite strange. And then when Kevin was shouting at you, you need to say it. For a minute, I fully expected her to speak. I fully thought she was going to start talking or apologising or saying something. So that was quite, she's going to say something, and then obviously Jill walks in. But then Jill doesn't even really greet her mother. She just sees her, walks over, picks up the present, says, "I got your present," and then leaves. Yeah. I think that kind of shows just her mixed emotions she has about her mum.
Yeah,
no, that's a really good point, actually. And?
Yeah, it's a really powerful scene, isn't it? It's heartbreaking. It must be bad enough being told that, your partner wants a divorce, to have someone else read it out for them, and they're not even going to talk to you in the moment. It's really bad. However, I also felt Laurie's conflict. It felt like, and it's something we can maybe talk about later, but it's whether that, was she going to divorce him anyway and then she left, or is she divorcing him because she's left? And no matter what the answer is to that question, I still really felt Laurie's conflict. So yeah, I thought it was a really good scene. This is where the show excels, I think, scenes like this.
Yeah, that human heart in conflict with itself, as George R.R. Martin likes to quote, so of course I'm going to mention it. So Laurie's then walking home with Meg, and she opens the present from Jill, and it's a lighter inscribed with "Don't Forget Me" on there. And Meg urges Laurie to keep it and says that she won't tell, but then Laurie, just to prove a point, goes and just drops it down a drain. And as I was watching it, I was just thinking of David Brent on The Office, just like, ooh, you're hard.
So it was cold from Laurie, wasn't it? Considering what a thoughtful gift it was for a GR member. Any kind of smoking apparatus would have been a hot topic, considering how much they smoke. So
very useful present.
Yeah. I'd wondered if she was going to throw it away if Meg hadn't been there, because it seems like she only does it because Meg, suggests that she does otherwise.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. As like I say, we'll talk about Laurie in a bit more depth later. But no, I think you're definitely right there that she's doing it to try and keep up appearances and like
mm,
make a point to Meg. Absolutely. So in the next scene, Tom then goes back to the hospital with one of those circular cult kind of marks on his head and no shoes, and he puts a mark on Christine, and he's going to take her out of hospital as well. Phil, anything to say on this little bit?
it was the only thing that really stood out for me in this scene was I was abandoned by my father. I thought that was, I'd wondered in that bit, because he's quite genuine in his delivery of it. It's not just like he's saying, oh, trying to explain why he's a cult member. Like the sheriff's asking. It felt like a very genuine statement of, I was abandoned by my father. And I was wondering if he was referring to Kevin or his biological father. And that's what I was wondering, like, oh, I wonder which abandonment or potential, which abandonment actually hit him the most.
I will say no more on that. So, Ant, what do you reckon? Oh.
I guess with Tom, his scenes in this episode are all a bit erratic because all of a sudden he's got the mark on his head, the target kind of. I think it's the Who logo or a mod logo, isn't it, of sorts? that bullseye target.
Yeah.
So I thought, is he faking it, or is there a bit of a time jump and he's joined the movement? And if he is, well, no matter what the answer is, I guess it kind of implies that those at their lowest are willing to perhaps join movements like this to search for answers. But what I probably think is that he's blending in of sorts.
Yeah, I took it that he hadn't really joined the movement, because you see when he's sneaking Christine out later on, you see him start to draw the same symbol on her forehead. And I didn't think it was that he joined the movement. I think it was just everyone was looking for, the police or hospital security would be looking for, a blonde man, quite well built, relatively good looking. Oh. Sorry, was that a bit too much information there? So they're all looking for this. But no one says, "Oh, it's someone with a bullseye mark on their head." If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Saying someone's a cult member to me would be a bit more of an obvious description. So by the fact he's hiding out, blending in as one, I assume that's why they did it.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it then, Phil. So next we then get some, I have to say, just lovely topless shots of Kevin as he's waking up. They know how good looking he is, and they're gonna flaunt it. And I tell you what, I am absolutely here for it. So
is Alex gonna listen to this? Just out of curiosity.
Well, even if she does, then we'll have a discussion. But I'm not gonna deny that Kevin Garvey is a tasty dish. So he wakes up. He slept in Tom's old room. There's no bed sheets on or anything. And we see that Tom's got a number of pictures in his room. And he's got one that Kevin looks at first of him and Kevin. But then he also has one of Laurie and then who I'm guessing, or, well, I'm not guessing, who is his biological dad. And we just see more of a disconnect between him and Jill and everything. And so then Kevin has a brief conversation with Jill, and we just see just the complete disconnect between them two. They've got a lot that they need to say to each other, but they just aren't, and it's not helping at all. And then as he goes to leave, one of those stupid fucking twins leaves the baby Jesus on Kevin's doorstep. So, Ant, anything to kind of offer on this little scene as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely at the brink, isn't he? He's sleeping on a bed with no sheets. I'm pretty sure he's in a spare bedroom. So, it just really highlights what kind of situation he's in. He's got enough on his plate, hasn't he, with his implied mental instability and stuff going on with JR and, obviously the divorce. So, obviously, with the baby Jesus being dropped off to Kevin's house and it being on the doorstep, there's probably a connection to be made between that situation and finding Jesus. I don't know. Maybe it's a step too far, but a bit of hope there. There's definitely
Jesus has found him, hasn't he?
Oh yeah. I guess he has.
Phil,
So going from the start, I didn't realise at first it was Tom's room. So explain why he found the picture of Tom's dad in there. But I didn't realize is Tom. Do we know if Tom has a relationship with his father at all? Because
Not at
Laurie
this stage, I don't
mentions
think.
about another man's mess and her mess. So I got the impression that the father had just left and that there was no relationship between them.
Keep watching.
Right.
Keep
Okay.
watching.
So I'd wondered if he'd departed then, because we've not heard or seen anything from him since.
Hmm.
Yeah, the other thing what I thought was quite interesting here was I was actually quite impressed with how Kevin doesn't try to blame Laurie. You know, when he's talking to Jill, and they're having a brief conversation. They're clearly not communicating very well, but at
Yeah.
no point does he just try and go, well, it's, look, your mum being such and such or acting stupidly or anything. He doesn't try and actually blame her for it, which I was quite impressed with, because it would be so easy to say, well, I was shouting at her because she was doing something stupid, or she's abandoned us, or any of these things. He goes, it's complicated. Now,
Yeah,
admittedly-
that's a really good point, actually.
yeah. So I thought that was quite. It shows A, he still very clearly cares for his wife. B, doesn't try to poison the relationship between Jill and Laurie. Like he doesn't try and stop her giving the present. Doesn't chastise her for doing it. But also then, as I said, the next couple of sentences shows how disconnected those two are, as in Kevin and Jill, when he doesn't try to explain any further anything else that's happening. It's just, it's complicated. And then I can't remember what her last words were. Come back to me when it's simple.
Yeah, it's a great response. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh, right, okay." But yeah, and then I thought, yeah, obviously the baby Jesus coming back to him was, I wonder, was that him finding his faith in people or something? But it seems a bit too much of a stretch.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
But I love seeing those twins. I love the scenes with them, They're my favourite part of the show so far. Wouldn't you agree, Sam?
shut up, Phil. Do you want to get thrown off this fucking podcast? So Christine and Tom are then on a coach travelling somewhere. She's talking to a soldier. Tom finds out as he wakes up, and then the brakes suddenly slam on. Everyone goes flying a little bit. Luckily, everyone's okay. But they see that out on the road there are tons of lifelike dolls. And when I say lifelike, I mean really lifelike dolls. And the soldier says to Tom that some idiots paid a fortune just to bury this. And so they're clearly of people who have departed, that people have ordered, so then they can have some kind of ceremony with them. And Christine, then, as I mentioned earlier, she's looking at them all and she says that they're all dressed in white, just like the dream. So, Ant, did you have anything to offer on this?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because you've got the lifelike dolls all in white and the GR all in white. I'm not quite sure what the link is, to be honest with you. I'll be honest, when those brakes suddenly slammed on, and you got off the coach, I thought they were all human bodies at first, on the way to the morgue or something. And then when you find out they're lifelike dolls, I thought, well, why are people burying dolls? And then it clicked, well, to provide some sort of closure. But even so, say if someone close to me got took in the rapture, got took in the departure, sorry, would I commission a lifelike doll and bury it? I don't know. I don't know if there's something more sinister going on. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack in that scene.
Keep watching. Phil?
So I know we see adverts for this kind of service, I think in Matt's episode. I think, and possibly even earlier than that, when they talk about, to help get closure, just all we need is a simple picture and we can create a lifelike such and such to help you move on. So we knew this service was available from previous episodes. The one thing I wondered is, did you get the impression that Christine had been flirting with the other Tom?
Not really. I think she was just being friendly when the other Tom was asleep, to be honest. I didn't take it as flirting.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's just fairly kind of
Just being friendly.
bubbly, isn't she? Really, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. No,
Yeah.
potentially that is the case. I just initially wondered, because I got the impression Tom was slightly jealous. Because we know
Yeah.
that Tom does like her. Maybe that's just I'm seeing the wrong thing there.
Yeah, well, I think we all know people, all know guys who get jealous over nothing and just will kind of project something onto something innocent. So I think that's probably more likely what's going on. So next we are at the school where the event is going on that's been discussed earlier in the episode, and Kevin gets called up by the mayor to give a little speech to the crowd, and he talks about how he's found the baby Jesus and he's going to personally deliver it back to the nativity, and I'm guessing he's expecting a massive applause, but the crowd is just like, what the fuck? And it just shows that nobody cares about this as much as Kevin did. They all seem a little bit dumbfounded by it and are just like, okay, sure, go for it.
Yeah,
Answer your reaction.
Yeah, I totally agree, Sam. It was such a big victory for him, but not for everyone else. Nobody cares. And I thought this was one of the most powerful scenes probably of the show so far, for some reason. I don't know if I'm a bit too invested in it. But,
okay.
Definitely life is about taking on your own battles, no matter how big or small. And sometimes other people won't understand how much small things can mean to you. So obviously, with everything going on, so his divorce at the moment, on top of everything else, the fact that he's managed to get this done, it's a big deal for him. Even though he initially didn't want to do it, he's found some solace in it. And the fact that nobody cares was it was quite funny, but it was also quite not harrowing, but it was definitely like the way that they were building up in the episode. You expected more of a reaction, didn't you? Because they keep talking about it. I was expecting at least some applause, but it was just like complete silence, wasn't it? So it was a bit of a kick in the face, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're right. I absolutely thought he was going to get a bit more of an applause, and instead he gets kind of an exceptionally half-hearted clap from a couple of people. But again, I just wondered if this was part of people losing faith in him. Not just so much, oh, we don't really care about the doll, but we don't really care about you, Kevin. You're not that good at your job anyway. If you've been running around looking for a doll. I mean, if I found out that the chief constable of the Met or something had spent X amount of hours looking for a lost doll, I would consider that a gross waste of time.
Do they even know who he is? That real talk when it was being introduced, like
they see him. He's been to all the town halls, hasn't he? So you see him in the first episode attending town halls. You see him in the parade. So I get the impression they'd know who he is, because if not just for the fact that he's a strange man who shoots dogs in the night.
Yeah. If they didn't know him before, they know him now.
Yeah, exactly. And they probably know his dad as well, who's also shown to have had mental health problems.
Yeah, I'm sure people know about the Garveys around Mapleton. Yeah, you definitely get that impression. So Kevin then goes to leave and he comes across Nora, who's sitting in the hallway, and I think immediately for me you can see that they've got pretty good chemistry, not just the characters but the actors as well.
And that's without the Ray-Bans, That's
and that's without the Ray-Bans, and that's without her seeing him jog.
She's seen him jog. She's twitched the curtain.
Yeah, that's it. She knows what time he goes for his run, and she makes sure, I'm just getting the paper out. just putting my recycling out just so I can just cop a little look. But anyway, so Nora mentions about her husband, and Kevin basically realizes who she is and says like, well, I'm sorry about what happened. And she's clearly seen that reaction like every day since the departure, like we've seen in the previous episodes. I think episode 2 in the scene in the coffee shop when she knocks the cup over on purpose, and the guy's like, "Oh no, it's fine." Once he realizes who she is, she's seen this 100 times before, so she's just probably just absolutely sick of this. Phil, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's good that you kind of see that kind of drop in her face when he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry about what happened," because she'd actually been quite upbeat up until that point in the conversation. Actually been quite a jovial conversation, like, "Oh, all danced out," or "It took him a year to notice me."
Yeah.
And then when he realizes who she is, and I thought he'd seen her before because he would have seen her at the Heroes' Day parade, for example. So I was surprised when he didn't immediately seem to know who she was. But that might just be, that's a pretty minor thing. Maybe he's got other things to worry about and be looking at.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You see her face drop when they talk about something jovial, but I'm impressed they kind of re-pick it back up, and I'm almost now expecting something to happen between them.
Oh. And?
Yeah, she's probably just a bit sick of the sympathy, isn't she, that she gets, and he was treating her normally until he realised who she was. So it just ties back in with the other episode when she drops the coffee cup. She just longing for that realistic human interaction.
Absolutely. Anyway, so Nora then tells Kevin about how her husband's cheated on her, as Matt revealed in the previous episode, and then Kevin tells her that he cheated on Laurie. First time we hear about that. And Nora asks why, and Kevin says, "Is there a good answer to that question?" And she says, "Well, I think I've just heard it." Oh, that's a bit annoying, but obviously cheating on someone is a terrible thing. But fair play for not, trying to pass the blame onto someone else. And do you have anything to say on this little bit?
Only I just thought it was a great scene between the two of them, and it's interesting in this episode how they start to merge some of the different characters together, and they're starting to cross paths now. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, if anything.
I found it again strange. She's like, "Oh, I only just found out my husband was cheating. It's been 6 weeks. We've established it's been 6 weeks, yeah." So she's clearly not moved on. Well, and understandably to a certain extent, but it's the fact she still treats us, "I've only just found out," like it's a fresh wound.
Still relatively fresh, I guess.
I was going to say that's still going to be pretty raw, isn't it?
I mean, imagine, Phil, if you found out that one of us was doing a podcast with someone else 6 weeks on. You haven't forgiven us, have you?
Well, and I've not forgiven you for your little side project with the other Sam, not even this Sam.
I think there's time for a plug.
He's been seeing
now.
Other Sam.
It's time for a plug now. So, guys, forget this podcast.
No, I was going to say, what do you mean? Imagine if we found out. We've already found that out, sir.
Yeah, I'm just going to edit all that out, sir. It doesn't matter what you say anymore.
But anyway, so the Good Riddance calls have, of course, turned up at this event, but they're standing 5 yards back from school property, so technically they're not doing anything wrong. But Kevin just says, "Fuck it," and just goes to arrest them anyway. And it's always good to see a policeman, projecting his own kind of issues onto others, because, he's got the power to get away with it. And when Patty's sitting in the police van, Kevin then kind of realises that, there's only a few people there, and where is everybody else? Ant, what was your kind of reaction?
Yeah, he's definitely venting on his divorce, isn't he? But I did think that, it's easy to kind of judge. Would most people act any differently? So, an organisation that had a large part to do with his divorce and separation are there antagonising the situation after he's told them not to be. He's there with the police. I don't know. Emotions get the best of you. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure.
I think he was hoping for this. As I said earlier on, I think he set some of this up because he wanted the mayor to be there so that when they did that, so she would understand or be part of the fact of why they all started attacking the Good Riddance squad. I don't think this is so much he sees them and gets angry. I think he was almost hoping they'd turn up so he could be angry. He'd have a reason to vent, as he kind of points out earlier on in the episode of, I think they're going, did it work? Yeah, they'll be there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he set it up, intending it from the start, but I think the way I read it is that, because of his frustration and all that, when he came out and he saw them there, he was just like, yeah, I'm having this now, and just kind of took the opportunity rather than setting up. But I can see where why you would think that. So again, listeners, write in. Are you #Team Sam or #Team Phil? Obviously, it's going to be Team Sam, but anyway.
Look, I don't want to be making insinuations on listeners' intelligences, but one of us is right. The other one is Sam.
The smart
and
man
the other one.
The smart man is always on Anthony.
You're not even part of this argument.
Just
if
be
you're
like,
voting for Anthony in this argument,
put it this way: I am the pigeons on the traffic light. A sure bet.
Fucking idiot. Yeah. Anyway, so we cut to the guilty remnant who are now breaking into people's homes, and we see them stealing kind of almost benign items. They're not going after money, but they're going after photos, but they are leaving the frames. And that just reminded me of the line, "There is no family." And Laurie tells them all that she's gonna walk home, and she's not going to drive back with them. Phil, any kind of thoughts on that?
So the main thing for me was, I mean, I thought it was going to be a really sinister section when you see the first person holding, I think it's a screwdriver in their hand.
It's something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be far more serious than it was. But the one thing I wanted to check was Meg breaking into Nora's house. Because there's a photo on the fridge of a man, 2 kids, and a woman.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it is Nora's house. Okay, just kind of wanted to see if that's how that's going to play on later on then.
Yeah,
between the two of them.
And
yeah, I mean, I definitely thought somebody was going to die when they started doing it. I think you see Gladys with the tool, and then I kind of thought, well, the break-ins of the homes, have they done it before? Do they know who to target? Are they targeting the same people? Because obviously there's no burglar alarms or dog barking or anything like that, or any confrontation. So just some things to think about there, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely easy for them to get in.
Yeah.
So we then see Matt, who's put a little baby Jesus replacement in the nativity. So all Kevin's efforts are basically for nothing anyway. Then sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it's nice just to see the other characters just coming more into it and linking together, perhaps. And in fact, we'll cut that bit out because you see Matt in episode 1. Forget it. Carry on.
Well, no, to be fair, what I was thought of this was, I wonder if this is just a little way of showing that Matt hadn't lost his faith. You know, kind of, he lost his church after everything, you know, after following all the his perceived signs from God.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was almost quite nice that despite that setback that he had losing the church, I've still got a spare baby Jesus knocking around. You know, like he still cares.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Matt's faith is, it's rock solid, I tell you. So, no, you're definitely right. That's a good point, actually, to pick up on. So we then see why Laurie wrote to the other people that she was going to walk home, and it's because she's going to try and retrieve the lighter from Jill from down the drain. So I think this is a good time to speak about Laurie, as we mentioned earlier. So I think she's definitely conflicted, despite what she claims to Meg, that she's not conflicted and that she's fully let things go, and she's not bothered about Kevin anymore and a family, and she drops the lighter down and she's trying to keep up the appearance that she's fully in the guilty remnants way of thinking. But we have the moment where she's sitting on the swing in the previous episode and Matt finds her. And then when he goes back and the swing is still moving, so she's probably been back. And then going back and retrieving the lighter, and it just completely counters what she said to Meg about letting go. And another thing as well is that we find out in this episode, as I said earlier, that Kevin cheated on her. And so in her letter, when she's saying that she was broken, is this what broke her? So I just would be really interested, and I'd just love to hear your guys' thoughts about Laurie overall, because they're doing a lot of work with her character, and I really like it. So, Ant, take us away.
Yeah, she's definitely a complex character, and as I said earlier, it would be really interesting to find out what tipped over the edge into joining the GR. Was she always going to do it? Was she looking to separate anyway, and then they just kind of conveniently came along and took her in? Were they preying on her? You presume that they were stalking her, but it's probably too much of a leap to suggest that all people that go through hardships will join the GR, because obviously there's quite a lot of people that haven't joined because they're still relatively small in number. They're not like a massive organisation, even if they are countrywide or maybe even international, hasn't been said. But she is very emotional and sad when she's with Kevin during the divorce scene. She was hanging around with the swings, but we just ultimately need more context at this stage. It's going to be interesting to see how it develops.
I think she's an exceptionally well written character. I really enjoyed the fact when she goes back to try and get the lighter, she can't quite reach it, as in the same way that she can't quite get back to her old life, is how I took that. Now, so I've literally just as you were talking there, Ant, I was just starting to wonder about the fact, because babies feature quite heavily in this episode, right? So you've got
Christine,
thank you, being pregnant. You've got the baby Jesus. So something I've just started to wonder about. So most people who join the Guilty Remnants join it because they've lost someone, right? Because that's when you see her typing an email to someone else saying, "Oh, we know how you feel. We understand your loss. We can help you." And in hindsight, I wonder if that's so. Someone, I'm getting the impression that someone has departed. And then what I've just started to think about, and I could be well off base here, is it's not going to turn out that she had been pregnant or something, has it? And that she lost a child or something? I don't know if I'm well off base. Just in hindsight, thinking about what the episode's about and the fact that she must have lost someone in order to join the Guilty Remnant. I don't know if I'm completely...
I guess it will never be confirmed or denied because it's spoiler free. So.
True.
It's good. It's good to see the theory develop there, Phil.
Yeah, that's just a thought.
No, definitely an interesting line of thought, even if it does end up coming to nothing, Phil. But
if you're gaslighting me, Sam, I will be livid.
He's got to do it. He's got to be neutral.
But so then the episode ends with Kevin then throwing the baby Jesus out of a car window. Just brilliant. So that kind of brings the end to our overall kind of breakdown of the episode scene by scene. So we'll just talk briefly about our overall impressions. Phil, do you want to give yours?
Yeah, certainly. So overall, I think it's not been my favourite episode of the season. I'd actually go as far to say it's my least favourite so far. Agreed. But that's not to say it hasn't been a good episode, if that makes sense. Like I still enjoyed watching it. I've rewatched it. So again, fully enjoyed. I guess there's just a couple of things because I didn't quite understand a couple of bits of the episode, like the whole baby Jesus thing. I didn't quite get it. I felt like there was, I don't know if it was some kind of symbolism I wasn't picking up on.
Yeah.
So I struggled a little bit with that. Also, in general, I enjoyed the episode. It's just a couple of things I don't think I really picked up on, and I didn't quite enjoy as much, and I didn't quite enjoy the, Christine. Like, I saw all this happening, with the bodies, or the man, who's, I know what you're carrying inside you. That I'm going to describe it as demonic. Those little bits I don't quite enjoy that much. I find it quite a strange scene that I don't, because I don't understand what's happening.
See, I would agree with you on some aspects. I definitely think it's one of the weaker episodes, but I actually think the inverse. I actually think the Holy Wayne storyline was actually the standout aspect of the episode. Well, probably that and Laurie, to be honest with you. But I thought the whole bit with the dolls in the and the coach crash and the confrontation in the hostel or shelter, whatever it was, with the crazy guy speaking Greek or Spanish or whatever it is.
Was it Latin?
I'm not sure, but I thought that was definitely interesting for me, and I think that's probably the aspect of the show that I'm going to find the most interesting. The whole, is it like alternate reality based? Is it kind of destiny? Is it religious imagery? There's definitely something else going on there, and I've seen too much of it, and I refuse to buy that it's just, a mentally deranged individual just talking nonsense. I think there's definitely more to it, so it's going to be interesting to watch. But actually, just before we wrap up, just the title of the episode. So BJ obviously stands for, and not the obvious thing, Phil, it actually stands for baby
the more
Jesus.
important thing, yes. Yeah. I'm sure everyone thought the wholesome answer first.
But AC, I literally, apart from air conditioning, I've got no idea. Has anyone got anything on AC?
So Sam and I were talking about this before you joined earlier. And I started thinking about it because of something you'd actually wrote an ant earlier on in the document about the man appearing demonic, I think you described it as.
Yeah.
And that started me down a line of thinking. And I'm not going to out and out state what I think it is, but considering we know that BJ is the baby Jesus.
Yeah.
What would you think the opposite of that would be?
Satan, isn't it? Oh,
What's the
Antichrist. Antichrist.
Yeah, that's where I've landed on, if that's the right word
could
for
be.
it.
You know what? That's a hot take. And yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Is like, if it is the Antichrist, is he the Antichrist? Who's the Antichrist? Is there an Antichrist? I don't know.
Potentially, but think, because for instance, like the guy, as I said, you described him as demonic. Like, oh, I know what's happening. You know, I know what's happening with you, or what's inside you. Not just, oh, you're pregnant, but actually it's triggered something quite strange.
Mm-hmm.
Also with the, for seeing all the bodies in the road. I know they're not real bodies, but nonetheless, that's still pretty weird. And what's the other thing that happened with Christine?
I just want to watch the rest of it now. Can we just grind it? Scrap the podcast.
Yeah. Is that what you thought, Sam? Just out of curiosity.
So I never immediately went to the Antichrist thing. I'm not gonna lie, that the whole thing with the doll baby Jesus and all that, whatever the meaning is behind it, it's kind of a little bit lost on me. Obviously you don't want the program to make things obvious, and it's good for discussion, but I'm struggling to really think of anything, to develop any kind of theories behind it, apart from the more general, finding faith and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't really have too much to offer on that, to be honest. So we'll have to we'll perhaps revisit it in a future episode, see if anything's backed up that theory.
It is super interesting, though. If AC does stand for Antichrist, which I guess is obviously, BJ and AC, Jesus and Antichrist, they make sense together rather than it stand for something random. And with that scene in the shelter, certainly all it does is reinforce that I was right to begin with. And even
Sorry, on what? Sorry, just to be clear.
saying he was a demonic figure of sorts.
Oh right, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
I said that's.
Well, we'll see how things unfold.
I love how we're talking about theory, nothing confirmed, ants there. It reinforces that I'm right.
Yeah, I am correct.
Sam, you even said that you can't really, you don't get too many answers. So I guess we'll never know, will we?
Yeah, this is the worst program to watch with ants, because he can just go, well, you haven't proved me wrong. So.
yeah. So I'm right.
Only the proof is on you. Go on then, Sam, wrap up before we get carried away.
No, that's it. For me, overall with this episode, I do agree that it's my least favourite out of the first four, but I do think it's another very good episode. It doesn't try and do as much kind of heavy lifting with the world or as much character stuff as, say, like the last one, where it's like a full almost like exploration of Matt's character. But I do really like the stuff that they did with Laurie. I think she's an excellent character. I have to admit, for me, I just don't care about Tom's story. I don't find it particularly interesting or exciting. And then I do really like Jill's character, and I like her conflict, and I like her dysfunctional relationship with Kevin, or I find it interesting, not that I like it. But I just wish that she had a better supporting cast to interact with. Like any of her stupid friends or anything, I'm just like, fucking hell. Like, it just feels so. The twins, the other guys there. Amy's okay. She's at least has a bit more depth to her, but it just feels like it's a different program to me. Whenever they're on, I just don't feel like it fits, and so. Hopefully something horrible will happen to those twins and we never have to see them again. But anyway, guys,
the twins represent the 2%, there's two of them, there's...
You know what? That is another strong point. Well made, sir.
Thank you.
Fuck you know. Right, on that, I think it's best that I wrap this up before this goes any further.
All right, bye everyone. Bye.
No, thank you very much for tuning in, as always, and we'll be back for another episode next week. Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
If you like what you hear or have something that we have missed, please feel free to contact us at sapsreview@gmail.com or light up our Twitter at @thesaps. There are Patreon and OnlyFans accounts in the works for exclusive remarks and content from myself, Anthony, and outtakes, mistakes, and just general fuck-ups from Sam and Phil.